minutes before the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
The
Now,
floor is yours, Giovanni. Pay attention because your mic is muted.
okay, thank you very much, Antonella. Okay,
You're welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning, everyone. And I think good afternoon to Dominic. Now, my name is Jawati Binti Johari. You can call me Jojo. And I'm from the National Defence University of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And the title of my presentation is Digitizing a Learning Activity, Challenges and Opportunity. So basically what I plan to do is to actually, for this research specifically, is to transfer an existing physical learning approach or activity into a digital format. So that's the focus of this presentation. So let's have a look at the outline of my presentation today. I'm going to look at introduction, and then I'm going to talk about work the walk, or WTW. So this is the physical or face-to-face learning activity that I transfer into a digital format. And then we're going to look at methodology, findings, and last but not least, conclusion, where I will answer 2 research questions. So under the introduction, I am going to look at the needs for having a new teaching and learning approach online. And then we're going to look at selecting and digitizing the existing learning approaches. And last but not least, the 2 research questions for this paper. Now, because of the pandemic that started last year, the shift from face-to-face sessions to emergency remote teaching was inevitable. And why do we need to have a new strategy or a new learning material? Simply because we need to have a proper materials teaching online. However, because of this emergency remote teaching, we don't really have time to prepare or to have proper planning. And what I did, and some of my friends did, was actually to transfer an existing learning approaches to digital formats. And we did this within 1 or 2 weeks, and then we straight away use it. So that's the gist of this research actually. And 2 research questions that I will be answering at the end of this presentation. The first one, what are the challenges and opportunities when transferring WTW to a digital format? And how best to transfer the existing learning approaches used in our face-to-face classrooms into an online learning environment. Now let's have a look at what is WTW and how did I implement WTW in the face-to-face sessions. So basically, WTW is a transformative learning and teaching approach. So it actually uses flipped classroom as well as Socratic dialogue. So basically in my online or physical classes, I do not have lectures. So when the students come into the classroom, we straight away go into activities, assuming that the students have actually accessed the materials online. And there's a lot of questionings and probing in order to trigger the students' awareness for the lessons of the day. Now, this WTW was designed in 2017, and I believe that it promotes active, collaborative, as well as self-exploratory learning. And it also increases critical thinking as well as communication skills. Now, when I started WTW, I started with just one type, which is WTW Free Flow. And now we have 4 of them, including WTW Free Flow, WTW Rotation, WTW Concurrent, and WTW Visuals. How did I implement WTW in the physical classroom? So basically, the students will be grouped into smaller teams where they have to brainstorm as well as discuss. And at the whiteboards after that, after 10 or so minutes, they have to mind map and then they have to present. I would like to share with you that at the National Defence University of Malaysia, The classrooms, all 4 walls are covered with whiteboards. So if you go around, it will be whiteboards. And according to the types of WTW, the students will have to perform tasks as required. The question is, for this particular paper, how to digitize this WTW. Now, before we go into the next section, I would like to share with you a very short clip on the implementation of WTW. Now, this clip is actually 3 minutes long, but we are going to focus on selected only. So basically, this is WTW. And if you look very carefully here, this is actually the type. Now, you can use WTW on its own, one type, or you can combine with visual and free flow, for example, like what we see on the screen now. So this is WTW visual and free flow. And then we also have, for example, this one here, WTW visual as well as rotation. Now, rotation is when the students as a group will move from one whiteboard to the other in order to look at whatever the other groups have actually mind mapped, and to add more information if needed, or to actually delete whatever is not necessary. And for free flow, we have here one example like this one. So this is actually free flow. You have one student presenting on her whiteboard, and the rest of the groups will have to gather around her in order to listen to the concept, and they can ask questions. Now, some of you may ask, what's my role as an educator in this? So basically, I will actually explain or re-explain or clarify whatever issues that they have. Now, for this one here, we do not have concurrent, because concurrent is a very complex WTW, because the students have to move concurrently to 4 boards or 5 boards. So it's rather challenging for me to do the recording as well as to actually share with you here. Now, let's go back to the presentation slide. So the question again, how to digitize this approach? Ladies and gentlemen, under methodology, I'm going to talk about the design, population, as well as instruments that I used for this small research. In terms of the design, I actually use a checklist as well as informal WhatsApp interviews. So this is basically a qualitative approach to research that I use. So for the checklist, there are 6 questions that I actually listed down as items. They are on online presentation and the students' collaboration online. So for this WTW that I transfer into digital format, I call it digital WTW. So it's DWTW. And for this particular paper, I just focus on DWTW free flow, because that's the only thing that I'm able to experiment it, and I think that the students benefit from it. 4 questions asked on the WhatsApp. And for the DWTW implementation, I actually use MS Teams, a video conference platform, as well as Padlet, a whiteboard where you can actually collaborate and share information online. And in terms of the population, at the National Defence University of Malaysia, we have 17 academic programs. And just 1 academic program, the students that are involved in this particular observation. There are 80 students who were involved in 2 courses, the first year and the 3rd year student. And both courses, I taught this during the same semester. And the total population of this 1 academic program, the student population, is about 140. So I would say about 2/3 of the students actually participated in this research. Now, as the instruments, as I have actually explained just now, I use checklists, and there's yes, no, and not observe in the checklist. And then the informal interviews, to 4 questions. So do you find it difficult to participate? What are the challenges? What are the things that can be improved? And what else do you think could help in this learning activity? Now, this learning activity refers to DWTW free flow. So let's have a look at the findings of this research. So we have findings from the observation as well as from the interviews. Now, from the observation checklist and data, it is found that students using DWTW Free Flow were able to collaborate and present during online activities. However, during the first attempt for both courses, students were not able to collaborate effectively online. And this was exemplified by the fact that there's a lot of questions that were asked personally to me, and then there's slow response rate during the activity. Now, for this DWTW, I use 12 hours, 2 hours per session, so that means 6 times throughout the semester of 14 weeks. And the most important finding, I believe, is the back channeling did happen. Because
5 minutes to go.
Thank you. Because the students otherwise were not able to brainstorm, discuss, and later present critical concepts without discussing first or brainstorming first. And these were not evident in the main WhatsApp group where I'm part of the group members. So the students have the other WhatsApp group according to their cohort, and I believe that's where back channeling happened and not in the main WhatsApp group. And from the interview, I found 3 main themes. The first one is actually a challenge for us at the National Defence University of Malaysia as a whole. It's about the access and stability of the internet. There's no point of you preparing an effective digital learning activity when the students are not able to use it and when the students were not able to access it. So that's one particular thing that we have to think of at the National Defence University of Malaysia. And the other 2 themes are on working collaboratively and becoming more confident. So it is deduced that DWTW Free Flow has improved students' collaboration with peers and their confidence in presentation. In comparison to the physical class, some students have problems to do presentation in the physical environment. So I believe that that's a good thing about this online or DWTW activities. To answer the research questions posed earlier, this is the first one, which is what are the challenges and opportunities when you transfer an existing learning activity into a digital format. So there are 2 challenges. The first one, as I said, internet connection and stability. And secondly, students with 0 experience of WTW required more time to understand how to be engaged in DWTW. And for the opportunities, we have 2. For the students who are used to physical activities, they can easily adapt these activities that are digitized because they know the flow of that activities. And for educators, we can just use whatever appropriate physical learning activities and then we can digitize them accordingly. And for the second research question, which is what are the strategies to digitize? The first one, for educators, you really have to be brave enough to experiment. You must be brave enough to face failure because trust me, you will actually face that and experience that. And basically, you must trial and error. And secondly, the educators, we can choose the existing learning activities that we have and then match it to familiar platforms. There are a lot of online platforms that are free for you to use, but the main thing is for you to be comfortable with it. To conclude, I believe that DWTW is effective because it has been used effectively in my class. However, there's a lot of things that are needed to be done simply because, for example, the other 3 types have not been transformed into the digital formats. And I believe that the 3 types require different online platforms. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time listening. And if there are any questions, please, I welcome questions. If I'm not able to answer now, I will get back to you later in the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
I don't see questions in the chat. Oh, maybe there's one. There's one. Let me read it to you. Can see that. From Dominic is saying, did you use group map or any other specific brainstorming tool to facilitate group work and group presentations?
Okay, honestly speaking, I let the students just do brainstorming freely. There's no specific framework or format that I use, from the physical one until this DWTW. So there's no specific format. I realize there are certain formats or framework or models that you can use, but I did not use it.
I see. And I have just a small question to you. You said that there's an attention to the development of cross-sectional skills, which I'm very much interested into. And did you find an increase, or how did you measure anyway the development of critical thinking skills?
Okay, now what happened during, I'm comparing this to the situation when they did not use WTW physically or online. The students actually, roughly, they take around, say, 7 subjects altogether throughout the semester. And then I ask the other lecturers about the performance of the students in terms of speaking and debating and arguing, whether they are able to provide supporting details that are solid. And some of them said that the students just answer yes and no, and without any supporting details. And during my class, what happened was that because they were given the... Now, I think I need to tell this because at the National Defence University of Malaysia, not many lecturers are using flipped classroom. So they have lectures and they don't have a lot of activities to help the students. So for those who have a flipped classroom, they realize that the students are able to actually respond well. They were able to provide details. They were able to provide support to their, or provide evidence or proof rather, to whatever that they say. So I guess that's one step of actually polishing their critical thinking skills. And of course, communication skills, when they speak and all that. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. At my university, our medium of instruction is English. But because our first language is not English, this poses a lot of issues for some of our students. And they become very shy, not because they are not brilliant, but they don't have the competency in the language to actually share.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yes.
Yeah, so that's a long issue.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to have you on this session.
Thank you.
We are going on. Otherwise, we risk to be to run out of time. So Caroline Van